Mr. Chairman, I'm finishing dinner, but I am here when you need me.
All right, Chip, sounds good. All right, hey, Greg, Tom, Joe. Okay, there's Jim, Mickey, Gail. Good, good, good. Mickey, you with us?
Yes.
All right, welcome. Okay. All right, I think we're ready to begin. Let's start the captions. Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order, Town of Wakefield Board of Appeals for Wednesday, March 8th, 2023. The roll call of members. Jim McBain.
Here.
Rick Darbell.
Here.
Joe Pride. Tom Lucy.
Here.
Greg McIntosh.
Here.
Mickey Feely.
Here.
And Chair Dave Hatfield present, along with Gail. Our admin. Welcome, Gail. All right. All right, legal notice. Joe, if you will.
Right, consistent with the governor's orders extending certain provisions of the open meeting law, every effort will be made to allow the public to view and or listen to this meeting in real time. If you don't have a camera or microphone on your computer, you may use the following dial-in number: 1-301-715-8592, meeting ID 824-7254-3295, passcode 68436. Please use only dial-in or computer, or not both, as audio feedback will distort the meeting. This meeting will be audio and video recorded in compliance with the American with Disabilities Act. This location is accessible to people with disabilities. Wakefield provides reasonable accommodations and or language assistance free of charge upon request. If you are a person with a disability and request information or materials in an alternate format, or if you require any other accommodations, please contact Town Disabilities Coordinator William Bernal, Town Engineer, at 781-246-6308. As far in advance of the event as possible, every effort will be made to grant your request. Advance notification will enable the town to make a reasonable arrangement to remove any accessibility barrier for you. 1, continue hearings. 2, 23-57. Kid Casso application for a special permit under Article 16, sections 190-99E, Table 1, 190-100D1D.6 of the Wakefield zoning bylaw to allow a two-sided bracket sign. The property is shown as map 12, lot parcel 140A of the assessors map, and is located at 103-109 Albion Street. 3, 23-58, Play Casso application for a special permit under Article 16, Section 190-99E, Table 1, 190-100D.6 of the Wakefield zoning bylaw to allow a two-sided bracket sign. The property is shown as map 12, lot parcel 148 of the assessors map, and is located 103-109 Albion Street. 4, 23-59, Gold Post Sports application for a special permit under Article 16 of section 190-99E, Table 1, 190-100D.6 of the Wakefield zoning bylaw to allow a two-sided bracket sign. The property is shown as map 12, lot parcel 170A of the assessors map, and is located at 20 Albion Street, Board of Appeals.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes.
All right, under our continued hearings tonight, we've received requests for continuances. So as we always do, we'll take those up front in case anyone is here specifically for them. From Attorney Brian McGrail, dated today, March 8th, regarding Kingman Block LLC, 369 to 371 Main Street, case numbers 23-14 through 17, requesting that we continue this matter to our March 22nd, 2023 meeting, still in the process, or now in the process of trying to accommodate the town of Wakefield's request to provide access over the subject property to the rear of town-owned property known and numbered as 11 Albion Street. If this were to occur, it would need to be reflected on our site plan.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we continue this to March 22nd for said reasons.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Regular voting members, Chip,
Yes,
Joe,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So that's unanimous. If anyone's here for the Kingman Block, it will be on our March 22nd agenda. Also from Attorney Brian McGrail dated March 8th, 2023 regarding New Creek LLC, 10 Broadway, Wakefield, case numbers 23-39 through 42. Requesting that we continue this matter to our March 22nd, 2023 meeting. Still in the process of working with board member Jim McBain to review revised plans with the project architect.
I move that we continue this to March 22nd.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on that motion? Our regular voting members, Chip,
Yes,
Joe,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So that's who's unanimous. If anyone's here for New Creek LLC, that will be on our March 22nd agenda. From Attorney Brian McGrail dated March 8th regarding Granite's Family Trust LLC, 314, 330, 336 Salem, case numbers 23-43 through 50. Requesting that we continue the matter to March 22nd, and that we are now in the process of working with board member Jim McBain to review revised plans with the project architect.
I move that we continue this to March 22nd.
I'll second that also.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Same voting members, Chip,
Yes,
Joe,
Yeah.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
and I vote yes. If anyone here for Granite's Family Trust LLC project, that'll be on our March 22nd agenda. And finally, from Attorney Brian McGrail, March 8th, 2023, regarding Dana Rodriguez, 377 Main Street, Wakefield, case number 23-51, requesting that we continue the matter to the April 12th, 2023 meeting, and that we're still in the process of reviewing options.
do we need to worry about the time on this? Do we
Brian,
need
I
to
think-
extend the time?
I think we're okay, Brian, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a special permit. There's no time
Oh,
limit.
okay.
Yep.
I move that we approve that we continue this to the April 12th meeting.
Second that.
Any discussion on the motion? Same voting members, Chip,
Yes,
Joe,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, so if anyone's here for that signed project, it'll be on our April 12th agenda. So that takes care of all of the continued matters that were on our agenda. Now we're up to new hearings. We have 3. I believe Bob Sardell is here to represent all 3, right, Bob?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
Uh,
I need to recuse myself off of 2 of them, as the applicant is my next door neighbor.
okay,
The kid Quesos.
okay, Kid Casso, okay. And then we have 3 other matters. Brian, I believe you're here for all 3, right? So we'll take the new matters up first, then we'll do the other matters. Sometimes we've taken some of the other matters up front, but I think where they're all grouped in this order and represented by the same people, Brian, we'll do the other matters, and I assume we'll do the extensions first, get them out of the way, and then spend the remaining time on 200Q.
That would be great. Thank you, Mr.
Sound
Chair.
good? Okay. So now that we've got sort of a plan, why don't we start with new hearing? So Bob, we're gonna do both of them together, the Kid Castle and the Play Castle. Do you have plans that represent both, or should we?
Yeah, they're pretty much on the same drawings because they're right next door to each other. And I just felt it was better to do it, show them that way too, so you'd see how they reacted with each other.
Okay, so we'll open the hearings for 23-57 Kid Casso and 23-58 Play Casso, both at the same address, 103 to 109 Albion Street. And with that, Chip Tarbell, these are the 2 you need to be recused from, I believe. He said 2 of the 3.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's it. Those are.
yes,
All right, so I'm gonna send you to the waiting room timeout area for the duration of these meetings, and we'll bring you back for the other one, okay? All right, so Chip is now in the waiting room and recused from these hearings. So, Bob, please take it away. If you can, share your screen as usual.
Sure.
Show us your
you'll be
plan.
happy to know I went to Zoom school now since the last time I fumbled. And a little help from Jim as well. So this is, here we go here. This is a front view showing the Play Castle and Kid Castle fronts. The Kid Castle's to the right, Play Castle to the left. And the location of front view showing where their signs will be going on the brick area just to the left of each one of their openings. Their entrances are Kid Castle's, it's hard to tell, but the door's right there. So this is close to the door area. And the Play Castle is here. So it's close enough here. We felt it was better here than down here, which is getting close to Hobby Bunker. We didn't want any type of obstructions going on there. So that is the front view of it. And this one here is showing more of the side view elevation. So you get an idea of the clearance height and the projection off of the building for each one of them. They were both identical in size. The only thing different in them is the actual text that's on them, which you'll see here in this one here. This gives it the height dimensions as well as the width. The thickness is noted down below as 1 inch thick PVC, and it's going to have digital pressure sensitive vinyl applied on them. She doesn't have any plans to do any type of lighting on these, so I didn't note any of that, even though these brackets were made to accept the fixtures on them. It could be something she wants to do down the road, and again, I told her that that would have to come with another approval, doing it that way. So it's pretty much straightforward. Anything there else? I don't know what questions anyone might have with this.
I think, Bob, to just correct you on that, I think on the lighting, she'd probably just have to come back to the design review board, because this board is approving projecting bracket sign. It really,
Okay.
But when she has that, we'll talk about it.
Okay, very good. All right.
Design review board has made a recommendation, basically these both be accepted. We had a hearing sometime back about the 2 signs on the building, that even though they're run by the same operation, they're two different separate operations, basically, as implied by the name. So we're making a recommendation from the design review board this be accepted. It's undersized compared with the 9 square feet they actually could be. These are at 6 square feet, so it's a little undersized, but it's great. It's what's really wants to see on this street.
Has the wall signs of that, has that been approved already? Was that done a while back, or?
That was done a while back, Joe.
All right, I don't remember.
It's all
that.
been it's all been approved.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I have no problem with this.
And the brackets, is that a wrought iron or metal?
Yes,
material?
they're pretty much the same manufacturer that we did at the Albion Cultural Exchange, as well as Hobby Bunker, the same type bracket, just without the light fixtures on it.
Bob, would those blow around in the wind, or are they like, do they swing?
I mean, there would be minimal movement there, but no different than what we've done already with Hobby Bunker and in the Cultural Exchange signs as well.
Okay.
They've got enough. There's a lot of weight to those. They're not going to blow too easy.
Joe, they required to hinge them. If you can see there.
They look hinged, that's why I'm curious if they.
Yeah, so the sign itself can swing in the wind if it had to.
Yeah. You've never seen them flap around, crazy.
No, I haven't.
We got a hurricane, we will.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did receive some correspondence from town departments. The fire department just had no comments or objections to either one. The engineering department recommended condition of approval that the contractor shall file a right-of-way utility permit with the town engineering department prior to commencing the sign replacement. So Bob, assume there'd be no trouble with that if we
Okay,
move forward, just some coordination there.
sure.
Typically seen in other cases like this. Okay. Board members, anything else?
Dave, I won't be voting.
Okay, so we don't have Chip and we don't have you, so Dave, Joe, Tom, Greg, and Mike. Right.
Ooh.
right,
Before we
you
do
ready?
that,
Running low here.
we'll open up to the public. If any member of the public wishes to ask a question or make a comment, we'll entertain at that time. Please raise your hand in the Zoom meeting. Seeing no hands, we'll close it to public testimony. So we do need 2 votes, even though we kind of discussed them together. Again, both are special permits, as noted. So if someone wants to entertain a motion, or the chair will entertain it if someone wants to make it. Our usual motion maker has recused himself.
Yeah, I'll take a shot here, Dave. I move we grant a special permit under Article 16, Section 190-99E to allow installation of a 2-sided bracket sign at 101 Albion Street, consistent with the drawings shown to us from Sardella Sign dated 1/25/23.
I'll second that.
All right, just clarification, yeah, where's the 101 in A and 101B coming from? I see that on one of the pieces of paper in here.
There was, yeah, there was a little discrepancy with this, the actual legal notice came out as 103 to -109. That's what ended up what the assessor's office had. But everything in the advertisement for Play Castle, Kid Castle, and even for their prior tenant there, which was the driving school, was always as 101. And that's how I put it in, but it was then changed by the assessor's office. So the writing on my my sketch there is incorrect there. I should have updated that.
No worries, I do see it says 103, 109, AKA 101. So I just,
Okay.
when Tom made the motion, I just wanted to make sure we were clear on.
Okay,
I don't think there's any, just on the address itself. Okay. Any other discussion on the motion, board members?
Just a quick clarification. Is this vote for both applications? Is that we're just taking them in one vote?
Nope, with one at a time. They are separate.
So
acts, even though-
so I guess we should clarify which one we're actually
Oh, yeah, good point.
voting on.
So,
I'll
Tom,
just amend the motion to say that it's which one's up for, which one? Play Castle.
Sure.
Okay,
I'll second the amended.
okay.
And then the other was we need to add that condition, right, that we just discussed? Or that not even discussed, was requested?
Yes. The condition from the engineering department.
And that's it.
Okay,
Take that as a friendly amendment.
Seconded.
all right, thank you. Any further discussion on the amended motion? All right, voting members, Tom,
Yes,
Joe,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Mickey,
Yes,
and I vote yes, so that's unanimous.
I'll make another motion that we grant a special permit under Article 16, 190-99E for the 2-sided bracket sign to be installed at 101 Albion Street for Kid Casso with the same condition from the engineering department that we had just discussed, consistent with the submission by Sardella Sign dated 1/25/23.
Seconded.
Thank you. Any discussion on that motion? Same voting members, Tom,
Yes,
Joe,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Mickey,
yes.
and I vote yes, so that's who's unanimous. Okay. All right, let me let Chip back in. We'll move on to the other new hearing. It says joining. He might have thought we were going to take longer.
He's having dinner.
Or like I said, he may have stepped away thinking it would take longer, but because I think I've admitted him back, but I think he's got to click a button to actually come back.
Not usually, I don't remember clicking anything, usually it just pops back on.
It popped you back in. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, why don't, I mean, we still have a quorum, so why don't we proceed? We can continue this one. I know he's going to want to be there for the following discussion. So we'll open up this one, new hearing. Goalpost Sports 23-59 at 20 Albion Street. Back to you, Bob.
All right. Here you go with the, all right. We're putting the same type of sign up. This one here is 9 square feet. It's made out of PVC material as well. It's going to be finished in black. And it has a digital print on there. As you can see, the color is not like a solid one-tone gold. It's a printed image that has this appearance of a sheen to it like that. It's printed both sides. It's actually going in place of, we took down this old Foley's barbershop sign, which took a little while to convince the landlord that it was a useless instrument up there now because nothing could be done with it. But I finally understood that. And so that came down. So the sign we're putting up is very similar to the artisan vapor sign that was up there at one time, but is now gone. So back to this here, it's just attached the same way. It's going to be free swinging, just like the Kid Casso sign is, and the sign across the street at the Albion Cultural Exchange. Other than that, brackets the same manufacturer, and no lighting on this one as well.
Okay. Jim, did you want anything from the design review board?
Yes, we recommend approval. It's a 9 square foot, which is the outside limit for this type of sign, and we're fine with what's being presented. And again, I won't be voting.
Okay.
The bracket is black, right? Rather than
Yes.
the white that's shown in the.
Yeah, that's just
Drawing.
a shop drawing there that was used in there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the rendering does show it as black. That's what, yeah, but good to confirm. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, good question.
Any other comments, board members? Okay, we'll once again open up this public. If anyone has a comment or question, please raise your hand in the Zoom meeting at this time. Seeing no hands, we'll close it to public testimony. I will recommend the same voting members.
Dave, real quick, I'm sorry. Jim, in that packet, you have a couple things on the window signs. Is that part of this or no? That was just. in
No,
here?
that's not, that's already been passed by the board.
All right, yeah, it was in the packet, so I was wondering why. All right. That's it.
Yeah, fire department weighed in on this one. Engineering did have, again, 2 conditions. I should call those out now in case board members have any comments or want to consider them. The sign must be at least 80 inches vertically clear of the sidewalk to comply with ADA. Not sure why they're calling that out on this one and not the other ones. Was there some question about that, Jim?
Actually, you know what? Maybe because the height isn't noted on this one here, the clearance height, like it was on the other ones.
Okay. But
But
what is the planned height, given that's where that?
I normally did 8 feet.
That's,
That would be-
that's what's required by the code.
Yeah,
Okay. And that's the intent. Okay. So that That's covered. And then the same other condition about having a right-of-way utility permit with the town engineering division. Okay, so that's it for correspondence. So unless there's anything else,
I think when you stipulate decision basic, I think you should note that it needs to be at least 8 feet to the bottom.
okay,
Yeah. If you need, Jim, I can supply you with an updated drawing for the record, tomorrow I could email you something if that's appropriate.
That's up to the chair. That's up to the chair.
that'd be
Okay.
fine. Bob, send it to Gail, please, and
Okay.
it'll get
Yep.
into the file.
Okay,
And everyone will get a copy, but request that you just route it through Gail.
okay.
Thank you. All right. Tom, you want to have another go
Yeah,
at this one?
yeah, I'll make a motion. We grant a special permit under Article 16, Section 190-99E to allow the installation of a two-sided bracket sign consistent with the drawing submitted by Sardella Sign dated 11/8/22. Stipulate that it needs to be at least meet the code of at least 80 inches above grade and the other conditions set out by the engineering department.
It's 8 foot,
8 foot, what'd I say?
80 inches.
Oh, 8 foot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, 80 was what the engineering department said it had to be, but the sign bylaw says it has to be 96.
Yeah.
8 feet,
Okay.
10 feet.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All right, same voting members, Tom,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Mickey,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So that too is unanimous. All right, Bob, yeah, if you can just send an updated plan, I think
Okay.
we'll get these drafted and over to you just to have a quick look in the next few days, and we'll get them filed.
Great. All right. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Have a good night.
Okay, you
Take
too.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you, Santa Claus.
All right. That takes care of new hearings. So on to other matters, so Brian, do you have a preference for which order the extensions? You just want to go in the order they're listed?
The order is fine.
All right, so the first request deals with case numbers 21-43 and 44 at 97 to 99 Water Street, SGD Management, request for extension.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Brian McGrail for the applicant. This, time flies. It doesn't seem like this was before you not too long ago. This is the project Severio Funicetti, who's doing two projects on Water Street. The first one that was permitted is 9799, and then he's also doing 184 down by Nassau Playground. And this is a request to extend the special permits. As you know, Wakefield has a pretty short window for special permits. The state law allows up to 3 years under local bylaw, and Wakefield has 1 year. So due to COVID, workforce shortages, and supply chain issues, we're requesting an extension on this until July 1, 2024. He's going to be dealing with trying to get supplies for two projects and timing, and so that is our request, and we're hoping the board would entertain that.
Okay, yeah, because the other one, building's already down. That one's going.
Yeah, and that's more of a sensitive, he wanted to put the resources that he could get to that building because it's near the playground. He wanted to kind of do it at a time of year that wouldn't impact as much as possible. So he just wanted to get that done.
Okay. All right, so when was this going to expire?
The board voted on it on March 23rd, and it was clocked in at on June 6th. So, I think it's arguable that it would expire in June. I'm always conservative. I like to look at the vote date, March 23rd. And so that's why I've requested a time to extend the time to commence construction under the special permit until July 1, 2024.
Okay.
I think I need to clarify that, not July 1, 2023.
Okay. Any comments or questions, board members? Okay. Hearing none. Someone prepared to make a motion?
Yes, I move that we extend the time to start the special permit till July 1st, 2024.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on the motion? Regular voting members, Chip,
Yes,
Joe,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes,
Tom,
yes,
and I vote yes. Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, the next one, case numbers 21-22 through 24, 525 to 527 Salem Street, 168 Lexington Street LLC, also requesting an extension.
Yeah, so this was permitted by the board. Basically, it's already been extended for a 1-year period, and Mr. Zarowski, who was the principal of the entity applicant, again, for reasons, as I've stated, with COVID, workforce shortage and supply chain issues, has just not been able to get this going. And he's looking for as much of an extension as the board would consider on this. The special permits would lapse on March 22, 2023.
Mr. Chairman, I think where this has already been extended once, I could see going another 6 months, but not a whole lot longer than that.
That would be fine, Mr. Chair. That would bring a date of, if you went from April 1, it would be October 1, 2023, and that would be very much appreciated.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, Chip,
Yes.
want to make a motion?
Oh, I thought I didn't.
I think he just froze.
Or he's having a stroke.
what was the date? What was the date, Dave?
Yeah, I'm unfrozen now.
October 1, 2023.
I move that we allow this special permit to be extended to October 1, 2023.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on that motion? Regular voting members, Chip,
Yes,
Joe,
Yes.
sorry, Jim,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes,
and I vote yes. Okay, so that project has now been extended to October 1st. Okay. Our final other matter, 200 to 400 Quantapowhat Parkway, CCF, modifications, part 2.
Part 2. We're back to take another swing at this. For the record, Attorney Brian McGrail, representing the applicant on this property is at 200 400 Quantapowhat Parkway. And with me again tonight is Matt D'Amico from Cabot and Forbes. Nick Delacova is here from Allen and Major. He's our site civil engineer. Allison Desbonnet is here from Copley Wolf, is our landscape architect, and Chris Poles is here from Cube 3, our architectural firm. And I say we're going to take another swing at this. This is a request for minor modifications. I don't think we did a very good job with the presentation at the last meeting. I think it was a headache for everybody, and we apologize for that. We took the constructive criticism of the board. We went back to the drawing board on this. We spent a lot of time over the past 2 weeks, and I think we have a more organized presentation that we can present to the board. And we heard your concerns on some of the items, on all the items that you had concern for, and I think you'll see that we've made adjustments for those as far as our modification submittals that we sent into you on Friday. We also spoke with your architectural liaison, Mr. McBain, who gave us some suggestions, which we appreciate. Because of the size and scope of this project, it's not your typical modifications of one building with one side that you're moving a window. It's a large project, and as Jim said, when you move one window, it affects everything. So I felt like the last meeting was like showing things side by side was like trying to find, find Waldo. Was the change, and everybody was getting a headache looking at both elevations, trying to figure out where changes were. And as Mr. McBain suggested on the architectural component of this, that we don't show the previous building, we kind of just show what we're proposing and highlight the changes on each facade, which are typical, because at the end of the day, we heard from the board that your biggest concern is you want to know what you're going to get at the end of the day. That's your concern. So I think you'll see that when we present the architectural aspects. What we submitted to you on Friday was 2 links. And one link was our presentation package, which you're going to see tonight, which is kind of a footnote version of the changes. And we also gave you a link, another link, which was a more substantial link, and it included numerous sheets on site civil, landscaping, architecture, and a modified materials booklet. And I want to be sure to tell you that what is being presented in the footnote presentation version is in sync with what is in the detailed plans. So they all match up. And then if the board were inclined to approve these as minor modifications, those detail plans would be part of what is provided with the building department for them to replace the sheets that were approved as the original special permit that was approved by the board. So with that said, we're going to start with site civil, and Nick is going to talk about that. When we talked to you about site civil last week, we talked about we were losing some of the surface parking spaces, that we were going to end up losing 7 and up to 10. And we said we could make up for those in the garage and potentially increase the number of parking spaces on the site. When we looked at it in detail in preparation for tonight, it would have had too much of an impact on lost landscaping between the buildings. So what we've opted to do actually is remove 10 surface parking spaces and actually increase the landscaping on the outside of the building from what was originally approved, and put those 10 spaces from surface into the garage. So we're removing 10 from the surface, fitting 10 more within the garage, and increasing the landscaping on the site, which I think is a benefit for everybody, including the project. So with that said, Nick, if you could.
Brian, can I ask a very quick question about that, just to make sure I'm clear?
Yep.
Is that in addition to the spaces that were, I guess, along the road, or is that inclusive of, or because wasn't that like 7?
Yeah, we're removing
7
7 on the road, Greg.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think Nick will show you the 7 being taken out between the buildings to increase landscaping there.
So
On the
14?
surface, on the surface, 3, did I say? No, I apologize. 7 along the road, 3 between the buildings for a total of 10.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you for correcting me on that. So 10. And then those 10 will go in the garage. We found 10 spaces in the garage.
Got it.
And Nick will show you the detail of that in his presentation. So thank you for clarifying me on that. So with that said, Nick, if you could Nick share the screen, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely, should be able to.
Great.
Can everyone see this?
You got to blow it up a little bit, Nick, if you can. Good, right there's good. Right, yeah.
All right, so again, for the record, Nick Delacava with Allen and Major Associates for the civil engineers for the project. Before I get into everything, I know there's a lot of blue going on here. There's a lot of different colors. So I'm gonna go through each series of changes one at a time. It's really broken up into 3 different sections. One discussing the parking. The second is about the zoning table and setbacks. And then third, I'll get into the electrical equipment around the site. So everything you see in red was previously approved by the board. And obviously everything in black and white is what's currently being proposed. And then the blue callouts just show each modification throughout the site. So starting with parking, like Brian mentioned, we found a home for 10 additional spaces inside the garage. We lost 7 parallel spaces along the parkway. And then we removed 3 standard spaces throughout the neighborhood driveway. And I'll go through each of those locations. So these are the 7 spaces along the parkway that were removed with the associated sidewalk and retaining wall. Open this whole area up for additional green space. This island here in red, again, that was previously approved. It was shifted to the left and expanded. This landscaped island was reduced down by 1 space. This landscaped island was shifted to the right. These 2 landscaped islands were shifted to the left. We created 1 new landscaped island here. And then these 2 landscaped islands were shifted to the right, one of them being expanded. Going over to the other side of the site. This landscaped island was expanded slightly by about 1 foot. This landscaped island was shifted to the left and doubled in size. And this landscaped island was shifted to the right. So those are all the modifications to each of the landscaped islands. Overall, we have 1 new landscaped island by count, and then others, as I just showed you, were expanded. So additional green space for plantings throughout this neighborhood driveway that we're calling it, between each of the buildings. We also added 4 EV charging stations to the site, to the surface parking. 4 of them are located here in front of the building 3 courtyard. And shifting back to the other sheet, the other side of the site, we had 4 EV charging stations added in front of building 2, one of them being accessible. So that covers the parking. Is there any questions on that before I move on to the zoning table and setbacks? All right.
None for me. Nope.
So as far as the zoning table goes, nothing's changed from what we presented at the last meeting. The only change to the zoning table was to the building setbacks. The red is what was previously approved. And then on the right here is what's currently proposed. And I'll show you the location of each of those again. The front setback on the lake side of building 2 was reduced 4.8 feet down to 47.5 feet, where 35 feet is required for a garden dwelling. The top corner here behind building 3, adjacent to the highway, the rear setback was reduced 2.9 feet to 52.7 foot setback, where 50 feet is required for mid-rise apartments. And then on the other side of building 3, the side setback was increased by about half a foot to 60.9 feet. Again, 50 feet was required. And then moving on to the electrical equipment. At the last meeting, there were some questions about what the equipment will look like and the exact size of each of those components that we're going to be installing. So we provided all that here. For building 1 and 2, there'll be a 500 kVA transformer. The pad, the concrete pad that it sits on, is 5.3 feet by 6.8 feet. There's an oil containment curbing associated with it that's required by WMGL. That oil containment curbing is 11.7 feet by 13.2 feet. In this picture, this was taken off Google. It's shown as like a metal grate between the concrete pad and the curbing itself. In reality, Wakefield requires that to be filled with crushed stone. And then building 3 has a slightly larger transformer. It's a 1500 kVA. There's 2 of them on the site. The pad is 6.8 feet by 6.9 feet. And the oil containment curb associated with it is 13.2 by 13.3. And I'll show you the locations of all of these on the site in a minute. There's 2 switch gears on the property proposed. The footprint, 6.9 feet by 7.2 feet. Each location also has a transclosure that we discussed at the last meeting. The size of that transclosure is 4.5 by 4.5 by 4.5. The generator, the gas generator behind building 3 is 12.9 feet by 4.5 foot footprint by 7.8 feet high. Now the locations of these, I'll zoom in here. The red is what was previously approved. Since then, we've drawn in each of them, the switches, the transformers, and the transclosures to scale with the required setbacks to each of the equipment pads that Wakefield requires. So we have our switch on the left, the transformer on the right, the dash line around the transformer. I'll zoom in a little bit more so you can see it, is the oil containment curbing. And then the transclosure was moved on the opposite side of the driveway in this landscaped island here. The reason for that is because of the setback requirements between the transformer pad and the switch and the transclosure. There's just simply not enough room to keep them all together on this single island. And then we have the bollards. The minimum number of bollards around each of these pads, they're 5 foot on center, meeting the required minimum setbacks provided by WMGL. So again, these are servicing building 1. This is one of the transformer pads for building 3 on the highway side. Again, oil containment curbing shown in the dash line, the transclosure shown next to it with the bollard protection around each. Go to the other side of the site. This is the second transformer pad for building 3. Same scenario, dash line, oil containment curb, transclosure next to it with the bollard protection around the front and sides. This is the equipment for building 2. We have our switch next to our transformer and then the transclosure. You've seen we pulled the bollards off the curb line to help with screening, which Allison will discuss in a minute. The bollards are shown as close as they possibly can be to each of the pads, 5 foot on center. And then lastly, before I open it up to any questions, there's a couple small modifications to curbing, miscellaneous curbing that I just wanted to point out real quick. Behind building 3, the red line here is previous curb. You can see we've added a door into the building. So that curbing was shifted over. The driveway had a slight adjustment to align with the entrance of the garage. This curbing was shifted over to align with the additional doors along the building. And then I believe Allison will discuss this, but I'll just mention it briefly. We adjusted the walkway down to the dog park. Previously, we had a stair set with a walkway that went around. We were able to make that work ADA compliant with just a single walk. And I already discussed the wall and the sidewalks. So that's really it for
Nick,
changes for civil.
Nick, this is Brian. I froze for a minute, so I don't know if I missed it. Did you talk about where the generator is? I was.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did miss that. Good point. Thank you. So behind building 3, again, along the highway side, next to the loading zone, we have our gas generator located here with the bollard protection. So with that, I'd like to open it. I don't know if you want me to open it up to questions or if I should just hand it off to Allison. I don't know if you want to handle all the civil first.
If we can, Mr. Chair, can we go through landscaping and then take site questions? Because these kind of go in sync, and landscaping might answer questions that some board members have on site.
The only question I have, Mr. Chairman, is what's that retaining wall being made out of? And if Allison's gonna answer that, fine. Or if Civil needs to answer it, why don't we answer it now?
I can answer that. It's going to be a Versalock wall. I believe you're talking about this retaining wall.
Yeah, where the parking spaces were.
So on the other side, I'm sorry for jumping around here.
Well, are all the walls the same thing?
There's really only one retaining wall on the site. I know Allison has a few landscape walls, but there's really only one retaining wall for retaining purposes. And this one was removed along the parkway because we
Oh,
opened green
removed,
space.
okay.
Yeah, this red was previously approved. You can see the black line here where my
Yeah.
cursor is. That's the new curb line. We got rid of those spaces. And by doing so, it opened up the green space and allowed us to drop the grade from the surface lot above down to the parkway, just by sloping it at a 3-to-1 slope.
Thank you. That, I was thinking that was added, okay.
Okay, board members, you're okay, just moving ahead to landscaping and then we'll open it up.
Yes,
Okay,
Great, Allison, I'm gonna make an introduction on the landscaping, but would you bring the plan up before I do that?
Yeah, I'm gonna start sharing my screen.
That'd be great. Thank you. Great. So there's a lot of things that are on this. We talked about a lot of them at the last meeting. And what Allison and Copley has done is their landscaping plan has been just altered to be in sync with these site civil changes that were just presented. And so a lot of these notes, and let you know, for her to go through every one of these because she's so detailed would take hours, but it's all just, basically, the stairs that we talked about and remove the retaining wall. It's repetitive. And on the right side, you see that note, added lawn where parking was removed. So these are just all to be in sync. And those islands that were added by Nick, we've added landscaping in those islands, which the detail of is all on those detail sheets that were submitted to the board in the separate link. They're all very detailed. So the things that we heard of concern on landscaping at the last meeting were what's happening around the transformers and the generator. What's the detail on that? So Allison's going to specifically address that. The other thing was the concern with one of the common passive areas that the seating area was kind of too close to the units, and the board asked to make some adjustments or take a look at that. It was pretty clear that the board wasn't satisfied with that. So we heard you on that and we made an adjustment. So Allison's also going to focus on that. And obviously happy to answer and get specific on anything, but for efficiency purposes and time, I just wanted to, to have her start by focusing on those things that were of the concern of the board at the last meeting. So with that said, Allison, if you could take it from there.
Yep, thanks, Brian. So Allison Dabonet with Copley Wolf Design Group, landscape architect on the project. So just going to walk through those two changes that Brian just mentioned. So Nick just walked through all of the locations and sizes of the utilities, the transformers, transclosures, and generators. So I'm just going to flip to the next page and show you an example of each of those. So we're looking at one of the transformers and transclosures, and then to the right, we have three kind of representative images of what's being planted around these. And just as well, those heights are mature heights. So just to walk you through the planting, just since I know this is black and white, it's obviously harder to read if you're not a landscape architect. So just along the curb here, we're showing these dwarf arborvitaes. They're spaced at 4 feet on center, which will give a look and feel really similar to this image. They're going to be tight and provide a really just thick screening along the front here. Along the side, we have a red chokecherry, which is not shown in a photo here, but that's a kind of thick deciduous shrub. We're also showing 5 more of those arborvitaes to kind of screen from the parking here. And then along the right side and the building edge, we're showing this the switchgrass that's shown down here. So I'm going to move on to the generator as well. This is just again an example of the question.
Yeah, what size, were quick to say that the dwarf abrevieties are 8 feet at maturity. What height are you planning on planting them at?
I believe we have them spec'd at 4 to 5 foot height. And they're going in spaced at 4 feet on center.
Okay,
So not full, we won't be buying them full mature. I mean, they do better kind of when they're can adapt to a site at a little bit of a younger age anyways. So, but arborvitaes are great. They're kind of indestructible and grow pretty quick. So back to the generator again, these same kind of representative images. Here we're looking at along the front edge and curb the switchgrass. And then along the left side here, this is the red twig dogwoods, which kind of provide an attractive color in the winter and a different type of screening. We have hydrangea, oak leaf hydrangeas along the back here. And then along this side and the back, we have the dwarf arborvitaes again. It's kind of a double layer here. So you're getting a kind of beefed up screen and then just ground cover next to that. So I'm going to go back to the plan. Just taking a second to load. And I'm going to be talking about the passive courtyard here. I'm going to zoom in for you guys and just quick, we're matching exactly as Nick's plans had shown, where the red is the previously approved design, the black and white is what's currently proposed. So what we did change here is this entire hardscape, we've shifted an additional 6 feet from this left hand unit. So right now we have approximately 15 feet of buffer there. And we have similar screening to what you're seeing at the transformer and generator. Those kind of plants as well will be creating a nice shield for noise, visual, etc. in this courtyard. So we do feel that this is a really sufficient design in that end. And I'll just back up to the full plan here. And I'm not sure if anyone has immediate questions or if we kind of want to open it up to the group for site civil at this point.
Yeah, we're happy to answer any questions or comments, take any comments on the site civil and landscaping. Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Board members?
So I have a question on something that's a change that doesn't seem to be related to the shifts in site civil, the removed, what does it say? Removed boardwalk bump outs. I mean, not a huge deal, but why are those being removed? I thought that was kind of a nice feature.
Yeah, so we did remove those. Looking at the design, it felt better as a linear path here, and we were looking at just constructability of that with the designer for these boardwalks, and felt that that just this would be kind of an easier situation.
I guess I'm with Greg. I'm not sure what an easier situation means, like less expensive to build.
Simpler to build for sure. We are looking at that. And we're looking at cost savings in different ways. Yep.
Okay, so let's call it what it is. You changed it to save money.
There were a couple of reasons. Yeah. Money savings, I think constructability, keeping this side of it with the private units just a little quieter. Yeah, we were looking at a couple different options.
Guess I'm not in real favor of cutting things for cost. I like them as well, Greg. It made it different and unique.
Yeah, sort of a sitting area. I know that's also a private property, obviously, but one of the things we had talked about was that being the public side of the building. It doesn't seem like removing a spot where maybe 2 or 3 people could sit is keeping things much quieter.
I agree. I'm not for making these changes after an approval to save money. And, you know, as you walk along there, there's sometimes good reason to have those bump outs, not just to sit. You know, people walking dogs, people that have all kinds of things to have a little area to step aside to let a larger group go by or something. You know, I'm not for that either. That's
Is there anything, I guess the question I have, is there anything else on this plan that has been made or decided upon for cost savings as compared to quote unquote, just aligned with Nick's civils changes? Because that had nothing to do with Nick's civil changes.
No, there's nothing.
And I asked that same question at the end of the last meeting, Chip. What's being done
You did, yeah.
to save money and what's being done for structural or other reasons?
Yeah, everything here shown is structural related, grading related. So in that case, you know, removing the walls, that was in situations where we've changed the grading, not so much from a feasibility standpoint.
And Allison, you've added that central boardwalk in, right? Between building 1 and 2. I think that came up at the last meeting.
Well, that got narrowed, right? It was wider.
We actually had this removed for our initial submission in February. And after a meeting with Jim, we did add this back.
Yeah, that's never been presented to the board as removed.
Understood.
But it's thinner. Is that correct? Is it thinner?
No, I don't.
So what's the red line?
Yes, so this is been shifted and is it's not shown as wide as the one previously. I know we did work with Nick. There's some there's a piping in this area, I believe, Nick, if you can speak to that we worked with and wanted to align this better with the kind of central path here.
So how wide is that walk? That boardwalk?
I believe it's 8 feet. So we have 8 feet, 8 feet, 8 feet, and then this main path is 12 feet.
How wide was it?
I want to say it was 10 feet, but I will have to confirm.
And the reason why these things keep coming up, I mean, there's the cost saving aspect and that's bothersome, but we spent an awful lot of time on making this inviting to the public as well, as an amenity, and kind of having the building and its surrounds kind of move into the more public space. And those are how that got done, including the bump outs, including a wider space into the inside. And now those are gone. I'm not happy with that. Is the restaurant the same size? Anything else change?
Restaurant's the same size. Matt, do you have an issue with the bump outs? Can you speak to those, please?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can put the bump outs back in. I can't speak constructability. I think those are prefabricated boardwalks. I don't know how you build them given that, but I guess it's something we could figure out later. In terms of the different boardwalks, I mean, we're just specifying what's actually available in the market. When we put something in front of the board, it wasn't that fleshed out at that point. So I think that's what's being reflected in terms of the boardwalk across the rain garden. I don't think we ever thought about that as a direct entry point from the public. It's really an opportunity for, you have to cross quite a bit of lawn to get there. I think the idea was that you're coming from the path and sitting out on the lawn from there. But in terms of the bump outs, I mean, I think we could just remove that note if that's the issue, we could strike that note and we'll figure it out.
Good decision.
And I'm sorry if I missed it. I just multitasking here on my end, but where do we stand with that reconfigured courtyard? Did we get there yet, or are we gonna get there?
No, we already did.
We went over it.
And we're okay? Did it get changed from the last meeting and
Yeah,
board's okay?
it got moved 6 feet away from the residence.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I'd want to hear from Jim if that satisfied his concern.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Okay.
You got a
Nick,
fine with it or good with it?
Nick, do you have any issues with the bump outs, Nick, were they removed for any reason on, from your drainage or conservation or anything like that? I just want to make sure you don't have an issue putting them back when we're saying that. I just want to make sure it's not going to cause any of the problems.
No, as long as they're elevated, just like the board wants.
I didn't think so, but I just wanted to make sure.
I agree with where Chip is on this and other members, basically, that this whole thing is a minor modification, basically. It's not minor modification for reduction of cost, it's minor modification for coordination. So whether it's between landscape and civil engineering or between architecture and appearance of the building and the like, it's coordination basically across trades, because obviously at the time, you couldn't basically lay out the whole building and get everything exactly right. Otherwise, you've got a set of construction drawings. So, but at this point, to start to nibble away at the overall concept, we don't care if you nibble away on the inside, but please don't nibble away on the outside. Thank you.
Chip, this is Greg. Speaking of getting the feeling of other board members, how are you with this? You understand the landscaping. I was going to say better than I do. I don't understand it. So what's your
Yeah,
view
I
on-
think now that I've seen, I was concerned that the transformers were going
Yep.
to really stick out. Now that I've seen the amount of landscaping around them, I'm
Okay.
very pleased.
Okay.
There's plenty of coverage. You'll drive by them and not know they were there. They're not just sticking, an aprovidee in front of it and saying, "Oh, it will grow out, be fine." They addressed it. I mean, am I happy that one of the transformers had to go out, or whatever they are, had to go on an island on the other side of the road? That's a matter of setbacks that had to happen. I mean, that's a little disappointing that another bump out got. I think these things are ugly as sin and should be underground, but I know we can't do that anymore.
Could I ask a question about that then, Chip? But so if those are hidden by other aprovites, are you gonna be able to see the ballards and just like the ballards will be there, right? Part of the aprovites?
The bollards?
The ballards, yeah.
The bollards are, the aprovites, from what I can tell, are on the inside of the bollards. You're still gonna see the bollards.
In some cases, yeah.
Yeah. You
They
can't
might get
hide.
kind of grown over in some situations, but yeah, you might see them here and there.
You also have to provide access to have these things serviced.
Yeah. But that
So
could
they
be
gotta
done.
be able to back up a truck to them, get a crane in on them if they gotta remove stuff. So there's limitations that can be done, but I think they did a good job covering them as best as possible.
And they need to ventilate themselves, basically. It can get a little warm. So the CMP basically will not allow them to be built up against. They need to breathe.
The other thing that's new that we haven't seen, that I don't think we've seen on any other projects, is the gravel oil collector around it, around the concrete pad. That's a new requirement, maybe because of the size of the transformer, I don't know. But I'm happy that it's gravel and not a metal structure.
Could be, it's near water too.
Yeah, it's an environmentally sensitive site, so if God forbid one of those transformers failed, you know,
Oh,
they,
you don't, yeah, just don't even think about that.
well, we don't want the oil going anywhere that's gonna hurt the environment, so.
No, I'm just saying, don't even think about it happening.
Yeah, and the number of transformers you're gonna see on sites, you know, don't forget, all of these projects now are becoming electrified. So there's no gas. So, you know, the transformers and transducers, you know, the colleagues that I talk to, they're gonna get more and they're gonna get bigger on, you know, not just this site, but on a lot of developments, because you're dealing with electrified sites now with everything. So the electrical requirements for any development now is, you know, significantly greater than it was 20 years ago when you had gas heat.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, board members on landscaping and civil? Okay, so why don't we park that for now in case someone might think of something later, but why don't we move on to architectural, Brian? That's the third area, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So, Chris, if you could bring up the architectural presentation.
Sure thing. I'm pulling it up right now.
So we're gonna go through this and thank you to Jim, because Jim gave us the idea of, you know, kind of the way to present this and split the buildings and kind of give some highlights on the typical changes versus, you know, trying to compare side by side. We can bring up the old plan if we need to, if there's a specific question, but hopefully there won't be. We've got 37 pages. So I'm going to go through this, and Chris will be available to answer any detailed questions, but we spent time kind of laying this out. So with that said, Chris, could you go to the first slide, please?
Did Brian just freeze?
Oh, can you hear me, Chip?
I can now.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna go through these slides, and I don't know if you heard me, but Chris will be available to answer any detailed questions. So Chris, could you go back to the slide before that, please? Yeah, so we just wanted to, you know, orient you to the site. Obviously, we've got three buildings. As you're looking at the screen, the lake is to the bottom, Lake Quantapowhat. And go to the next slide, Chris, if you could. So the first focus we are going to have is on building 1. Okay, Chris. Okay, this is the lake elevation of building 1. So the key is on the bottom. So what we've done is we're looking at 1/2 of building 1 from the lake at this point. And that red box on the bottom is the entire building, building 1. We're focusing now on the left side box. So there's really 3 things to look at here as far as what we're trying to highlight the changes here to the best of our ability. We've got a restaurant change. We've got some building door changes and building break changes, which we'll get into some detail in the next slides. Chris? Okay, first is on the restaurant building doors. So what we've done on the restaurant, you can see the key on the bottom, okay, which we're focusing on this part of the building. On the restaurant, we've extended the head above glazing to accommodate the structure. So there's been a change there. The roof thickness has increased to coordinate with the structural design. And the window sills extended at the grate for maintenance and durability. So that's the difference here. We've also, on the balcony is lost in this stack. And the building support door requiring direct exterior access. So we've added exterior door, and that really is in order to serve the back working area of the restaurant. Okay, Chris, if you could go. So now we're focusing again on building 1 from the lake. You can see the block on the bottom on this area. So window sizes in general on this building, when you compare to what had been approved, have been reduced by about 1 to 2 inches in size. They've actually gotten smaller across the board. And that was to coordinate with the ceiling structure and the tempered glass requirements. So that's typical throughout this building. And then on the left, you'll see the note that the building break in this area, which is again is highlighted below, narrowed and shifted to the right to coordinate with unit design. Okay, Chris? Now, what we're looking at, as you can see, the other side of this building, or the other end of the building. And this includes the bridge. So we've captured that in this, the towers and the amenity design, which was very important to the board, because that is at the end of this building where there was some changes that we think now we can give a better understanding of what's happening there. So Chris, next slide, please. So this deals with the bridge panels, and the window panels and the bridges were adjusted to align between the floors. And the white section at the end of the bridge was adjusted to coordinate with the unit design. I think it's very important to note that the opening below has not changed in size. There was some discussion and confusion on that. It's consistent with the site civil plan that opening underneath is the same as it's always been proposed. Okay, Chris, next, please.
Sorry.
No problem. Okay, so this, you can see at the bottom, the area that we're focusing on. And here, the building parapets, there's some confusion on some of these buildings where the parapets disappearing. They're not, it was not well depicted on the last plans that we showed in our presentation. The building parapets here are adjusted to coordinate with the structural design. And building elements were adjusted to coordinate with the unit design on the inside. So this kind of spacing between the windows, etc. Okay, this I think we want to spend a little bit of detail on our time, I should say. So this is, as you can see, the end of the building, and we showed this in 2D last time, and it was really difficult to understand what was happening here. So this is the amenity deck at the top of the building at the end. And what we've done is we've relocated the outdoor amenity deck. So this is the look from the lake. So it's a deck up there, and we've actually got a 3D model coming up, which I think is going to give you a really good idea of what's happening. This is an end shot. So if you're looking at this building from the end, so if you walk to the end and you look at it, and you can see on the left-hand side, that's the lake side. So actually what's happened from what was approved, the building on that level has actually been pulled back from the lake. And now it's a greater deck area. And the wraparound deck on this end of the building has gone away. Now, the last rendering that we showed you on this, could you go back to that for a minute, Chris? Yeah, the last rendering we showed, you'll notice the eyebrow on the roof. What we had shown on the last modified plan that we were presented, that eyebrow was gone. Some board members raised some concerns on that. So what is being proposed at this point, we've put the eyebrow on that end of the building back. Okay, Chris, if you could. So this, you're going to see a 3D in a minute. This is the look from the highway side of that end of the building, where it's just, I don't know if it's really, as relevant, obviously, as the lake side, but it just to tie it in. And that building is now all the way back. So there's no deck area on that side. So if you go to the next side, so this really depicts what's happening. So previously, the bottom is the lake, okay, and you can see it was a smaller deck, but the building was closer to the lake, and the big portion of the building was on the side, and some of the building actually, the deck area actually extended around to the highway side. And now on the bottom of what's being proposed, we pulled the upper floor of the building back, increased the deck on the lake side, and got rid of a portion of it on the side and in the back. And we're going to show you a 3D model of this now, which I think will help you get a good understanding. Hopefully this is really helpful in depicting what's being proposed.
Brian, do we know the overall square foot change?
On the deck area?
Yeah.
Chris, can you go back to that slide?
Okay.
There you go, right there. So Chris, do you know the square footage change on total deck area? Is that something that you have or no?
I don't. I would have to confirm that.
Okay.
No, I mean, these depictions certainly help clarify, I think.
Yeah, I think
Across the
actually,
board, there was confusion last time,
yeah,
but
I think the deck area on the lake obviously gets bigger, but I think the deck area as a whole probably gets smaller. That
so
would
it looks, I just didn't know if it was
I bet you if you did the square footage, it would be pretty darn close.
Pretty close, yeah. You're probably right, Chip.
But the bottom line is that this is all amenity area. So the amenity area, whether inside or outside, does not change at all. From what I can tell.
Yeah, it looks about the same size, Chip. You're right.
That's correct.
But
And I think Tom made the point, I think I was confused last time. And I think Tom made the point that he liked the idea of the deck out on the lakeside, and I would say this is a much better design.
Chris, can you go to the 3D slide again? There you go.
I'm not gonna continue on this path, but I maybe because it seems like I might be the only one, but I thought the other design was much better. It still had a deck on the lakeside and also had a step back of the end of the building from all angles. Now, to me, it's just a step back from one side and a box from every other angle. And you have basically the same amount of deck. I thought the prior design was more visually, we always hear from architects, so visually, try to visually entertaining or whatever. This just seems like it's any old deck. Yeah, it's facing the lake, but the other deck had half of it facing the lake too. But yeah, so I don't like this. And I guess to go back to what Tom and a few others said earlier too, if this is a change just because they want it and it's cheaper to build, I don't see why we should allow it. If it is needed for structural, I think there was some question about that previously, that it was structurally related, then that's something that obviously would overcome my objections to it. But as of right now, I mean, this just
Well, a couple of comments on that. The step back on the side on this, in my mind, doesn't provide a lot of benefit because it faces directly to the other building. So it's not like it's facing the end of the project, like the Lowell Street side or the.
you could see it from the boardwalk. It's not just facing when you're walking. I mean, that's not if you turn your head, you can see the end of the building.
Well, and then the other part of it is that I don't think this is not for a cost savings for sure. This is just that we think it's a better design for the project and a better design for the building, which is a subject in approvable under as a minor modification. It doesn't have to be, for a structural reason. It can be because, hey, in the design, we actually think this is going to be better for the project. Now, that's subjective. You don't think it is, Greg. I respect that. But that was our reasoning. We just think it's a better design for the project as a whole and for the look of it aesthetically. It steps further away from the lake. It gets a building away from the lake. And, and don't forget, a deck like this isn't going to be used year round either. I mean, it's really a seasonal thing.
No, I mean, and that's exactly where I was coming from with the design of the building rather than just the deck facing the lake. But it seems like I'm the only one who doesn't like it. So, I mean, if that's
Brian, if I could
move on
quickly just add in like a footnote there, because I think there's something that I just want to explain why we even touched this to begin with. So this whole area of the building, it's 3 stories. It's all amenity space. Every single floor of that area in gray is amenity space. That's being built out of steel. It's a complicated, this project is generally wood frame. It's a complicated area of the project where that steel is meeting the wood. So the initial reason is because of those complications, we were getting extremely low ceiling heights to work with the previous design oriented the way it was. So that's what had us to look at a different orientation of this area. And we played around with a bunch of different options, and this is what we thought was most visually attractive and appealing from an amenities perspective, given that. And allowing us to, on the inside of this building, to have ceiling heights that we thought would work for amenity space. So I just wanted to add that a little bit of color there as well.
Okay, thanks, Matt. All right, shall we move on?
Okay, next slide. Okay, so now we're on the same building, but now we shifted over to the highway view of building 1. You can see it on the bottom, the key. So if you're facing from the highway, this is to the left side, the opposite end of the restaurant. And again, on this side, we also have rhythm and the size of the towers and 2 bridge panels, which we'll get into the detail in a minute. So, Chris? So here again, as on the other side, the building parapet was adjusted to coordinate with the structural design, and the building elements were adjusted to coordinate with the unit design. Next. This again is as you can see, the key, which includes the area in the red. We've adjusted the panels in the bridge to adjust in the line between the floors, and white section at the end of the bridge was adjusted to coordinate with the unit design, just like on the other side of the building. Next. Okay, and this is the on the key, the far end of this building, which includes the restaurant and building support. Next slide. So what's happened here is you can see the first arrow to the left, the top note, the corridor and stair tower egress. There's a door that's been added. There's been another set of doors added below, the trash loading and service doors for the building and restaurant. And then a restaurant entry door has been added on this side. Again, just like the other side of the restaurant, the roof thickness was increased to coordinate with the structural design, and also the extended head above the glazing to coordinate with the structural design. And as happened on the other side of the building, the will sill was extended at grade for maintenance and durability. And this is the end. So this is facing the street. This is facing North Ave, that end of the building on the right. You can see the key. And here the building parapet was again adjusted to coordinate with the structural design, but the building parapet has remained on the building. Windows removed to coordinate with the unit design on this side. Roof thickness again is increased to coordinate with the structural design and the extended head above the glazing to accommodate the structure. And the window sills were again extended for maintenance and durability. And we've added restaurant doors and louvers on this side of the building, which are noted. Next. Okay, moving on to building 2. Next slide. So again, this is facing from the lake. The lake elevation, we're focusing on the left side of the building. Here we've got building doors and some rhythm and sizing of the towers. So next slide, please. A residential egress door was added, as you can see. And again, at the top, the windows and sliding door positions were adjusted to coordinate with unit design, which is typical throughout the building. We made, Greg pointed out, and I commend him because, the drawings were not good the last time. So a lot of times it looked like the parapets were not being put in where they had been on the original plans. And, you said, Greg, geez, are there no parapets here? What happened to them? And I agree with you. It really wasn't more predicted. So we've made a particular note here on all the plans. The building parapets are there. They've just been adjusted to coordinate with the structural design. And again, the building elements were adjusted to coordinate with the unit design, the windows and the spacing between the windows and the decks. Next slide. Okay, you can see the area of building 2 that we're focusing on. Next slide, please. And here, the slider door size here was revised from 5 to 6 feet. Balcony window positions were adjusted to coordinate with the unit size in this portion of the building.
Brian, at this point, I assume it's just rendering, but your balcony railings appear to be different colors.
No, they're not changing, Chip. They're in the they're locked in the material book. Yeah.
Yeah, so I assume that's just the rendering not doing a good job.
Correct. Yeah. Okay, so this is now we're on the highway side of this building, on the left side facing from the highway. So we want to talk about the balconies, a building door, and window placement. So corner balconies were added here on the highway side. We want to point that out. Residential corridor door, egress door was added on this side as well. And window positions were adjusted to coordinate with the unit design. Moving to the other side of this building, again, building door issue, window placement, building door issue, and balconies on that end too. If you could go to the next slide. Okay, we've added a building service, was moved to coordinate with the unit design here. Residential corridor egress door was added on this highway side of the building. And building support access doors were added here, and amenity area access door was added on this side. And now we're at the far end of the building, and we've got window positions were adjusted, as we've talked about, and corner balconies. You can see 2 corner balconies were added on this end of the building as well. And this is the end elevation. And what we've done here is the building parapets were adjusted to coordinate with the structural design, as has been typical. This shows the end of those kind of balconies that were added. Access door was added on the end, and windows were added for durability and maintenance. So this is on the North Ave side of that building, of building 2. So this is the upper one is what faces building 1. The north elevation, this is what faces Lowell Street. And on this, what has happened is the building parapet again was adjusted, not removed. Window positions were adjusted to coordinate with the unit design, and the proportion of the materials massing were adjusted to coordinate with the unit design. Okay, so now building 3, which is in the back, we're going to focus on. So now the key, this building is bigger. So what we had to do here for the key is different. We've shown the footprint of the building rather than the facade to orient you. So this is the facing the lake and facing the backs of building 1 and 2. So what's happened here is, again, and this is where, this doesn't depict it as well either, but we wanted to point out the building parapets were adjusted to coordinate with the structural design, and the building parapets are there. They're on the detail sheets that we've submitted to you, and we make note of them here. And as it was typical on the other 2 buildings, these window sizes were actually reduced in size 1 to 2 inches to coordinate with the ceiling structure and tempered glass requirements, typical throughout the building. On this, in this area, we've added an egress door, which we didn't point this out. I don't think you'd ever find this one. And we've added a glass added at amenity area. We added some glass in that area. Chris? Okay, so this is as you face the building from the lake, this is the right half of the building. So we've made some adjustments to the white areas to coordinate with the unit design. The trellis was adjusted to coordinate with the amenity area layout and deck area. Balconies were relocated to the corner here, and the building color changed to improve the corner. We didn't incorporate a new building color. We incorporated one, but just changed it in that area. And then color adjustments between the windows, stay there, between windows and in the amenity area. And window sizes were adjusted here for the to coordinate with the unit design. Okay, this one I think is important. This is important because this is the highway side, and this deals with the garage elevation, which was really kind of confusing to the board. It was a terrible elevation, and I think it was giving everybody a headache by the time we looked at this part of it the last time we were here. So again, on this side, the highway side, you can see the area that we're focusing on the bottom, which is the garage area and a portion of the building. The window sizes were adjusted slightly to coordinate with the ceiling structure and tempered glass requirements. And the building parapets were adjusted. And then on the bottom, the note, a move in and out loading zone was revised, and a door position was changed to deal with that. But was really, I think the board wanted some detail on, and better understanding was the garage. And what we've noted here is that the architectural fins were adjusted to coordinate with the garage structure. We made note of those structures that had to be added for support. And we've made the note of the garage security fence shown at the ground floor. It's not the screening, that is the tan area. And the garage entry was revised with the final access location. And I think Nick talked about that with the site plan. Now, your materials book has been updated that this security fencing spec that we submitted to you is now within that materials booklet. But I think, go back to that for a minute. I mean, the way this was depicted before, it almost looked like we had put windows in the garage. And I think you commented on that, Mr. Chair. It was not a good detail, not a good shot. And that's not what's happened here. It's all stayed wide open on each floor. Okay. So again, on the highway side, the opposite end of the garage, what's happened here? We've made some adjustments, minor adjustments to the white areas to coordinate with the unit design. Again, the building parapets, which are remaining, are adjusted to coordinate. And we've added a loading and service door was added on that end, as you can see, where it kind of is in the garage area. Okay. And then this is the ends of buildings, building 3. So the top is the end that faces North Ave, which really faces the RJ Kelly property, building and garage. So here, simply the building parapets were adjusted to coordinate with the structural design. And then on the other bit, a balcony was relocated to the corner. So the proposed north elevation is the other end. And that's what we have. So these changes, we've submitted multiple sheets which coordinate with the plans that have been approved, that if you approve what's being requested as minor modifications, those will be incorporated into the building department records. We are now at the point, and correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, we've developed our building permit plans that are now, we're pretty close with those that are consistent with what we presented tonight. Is that correct, Matt?
That's correct.
So let me say something here. The minor modification basically is, because this is so massive a project, basically, like we've done on other projects, basically, we made minor modifications, but we're talking about 12-unit project, a 3-family, or a 30-unit type of building. So window coordination basically always sort of exists in some of those buildings. And that this is spread across the whole thing. The generators, alternators, and all the landscape basically is one of those things that, as the building comes together, particularly for construction, need to be coordinated amongst one another, which can't at the early stages be that level of coordination. Having said all that, I don't disagree with where Greg was coming from. I think not so much how the appearance on the end, it's the functionality of the deck that I think gives more opportunity for people to spread out into bigger or smaller spaces. But I also, to Matt's point, is I thought basically when I looked at this is that and you said it, Matt, is there's a transfer beam system basically has to go in there, which will affect the headroom in there. So I understand why it's being done. There's more than just the view, basically. It's also the transfer beam system. Otherwise, you'd end up with a structural column system, basically, the way it is right now, the structural column system basically will run straight through, as opposed to going through a transfer system, because you've got 2 different functions, basically. Whenever you end up with with different functions over the top of another function, sometimes those loads have to be transferred. And when they get transferred, they end up with larger structural members, basically. And I assume that's where Matt's coming from, but it makes perfect sense. The other thing I think, to Greg's point a little bit, when we talk about everything else here, it's pretty, in my opinion, minor modification. You can make an argument for that one section with the amenity and the deck changing. And what happens there is that a minor modification, or is that a change in the design? Everything else I'm fine with. That's the only one that I think deserves a little bit of discussion from the point of view of this board. So I throw that on the deck here for people to think about, but that everything else in what's presented for me, basically, minor modification and coordination at this point.
Thanks, Jim. Anyone else?
Yeah, real quick, Brian, maybe you can't even answer this question, but to Jim's point, this is a larger project and, you're pretty much covered us with everything, but you don't really anticipate any more of these, right? I mean, to me, I just rather get it all done now, so.
Yeah, what I say, we won't be back with any modification. I can't do that,
Yeah.
but not of this volume, no.
Yeah, so basically, if this would have passed, this would be your new construction drawings.
Yeah, because we're already, what percent are you at with construction drawings, Matt?
We'll be at 100% at the end of this month. And just to kind of fully flesh that out, when we're at 100% drawings, we will issue those to the building department. We will come back to you for signage in the future. And when we have a restaurant tenant, they may have some modifications that we might consider for that space to make that work. Other than that, this is what you're getting.
Okay, yeah, I mean, like I said, I just assumed get it all done now, even if it takes a couple hours, then to have it drip or drab throughout the next 3 years. So, I mean, I'm okay with it. Minor mods, to me, it's all just window, sounds like it's just window stuff, other than, the Greg's point, yeah, it's that amenities, it's a big chunk of it, but I'm okay with it.
And to be clear on that amenity space, I'm okay with it. I don't agree with, I don't like the direction, but overall, to me, it's not materially changing the project. It's not, completely changing the look and feel of even a portion of the project. To me, it changes, the view towards the building from that one side, but viewing it in the aggregate, although I don't like it, it seems to be, I'd be okay saying it's a minor modification or part of the whole minor modification.
Right, I couldn't see opening a new
Yeah.
public hearing for that balcony change,
No.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
that just seems,
Yeah.
even though it is a more significant change, as everyone's sort of discussing now, but yeah, I couldn't see requiring a new public hearing just to talk about that particular change.
To Joe's, but to Joe's point, will they be back? Yes, they'll be back.
No,
Will
I'm
they be
sure.
back? Will they be back 4 or 5 times? Yep. But it will be much more specific. Hey, we were building this elevator stairway and the windows can't go where we thought they could, even in the design, because of a beam that came across somehow. But it will be much more singular and won't be at this scale at all. But it's physically impossible to build a project this size and not modify something that they're showing us tonight. But again, back to Greg's point, we can all pick away at one specific or the other. And I can see Greg's point on the balcony, but as an aggregate, I'm okay calling this a minor modification because to me, the feel of the project has not changed.
Yeah, Dave, I would agree with that, but I do, Matt said he put those bump outs on the boardwalk back in. It's a minor thing, but I still think it's worth taking them up on that offer to put it back in. So I don't know how we do a minor mod and add language to, or just get a commitment from them. I'd be fine with that in some way, but.
Well, they just have to send us another, an updated set of plans that show them, because the ones they are sent to us are consistent with what they presented tonight. So if the bump outs are going back, we need an update on that plan.
All they have to do is remove the note that says they're being removed.
Right.
No, there's an
That-
updated, there's an fully updated landscape plan that
Yeah.
shows them gone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
get it.
Matt,
On the
Matt,
next set of drawings on the packet, yeah.
Correct.
but Matt, that's not an issue to revise those plans, right? I mean, just.
Oh, we already committed to it, not even a discussion.
Not an issue.
No,
That's
no, we just
correct.
need it. It's not a big deal to put them back. They were there. It's just, we just need an update. So we'd vote on plans presented tonight with an adjustment to the bump outs. If that's, again, the only change we're gonna deviate from what they've presented. Right? From what I've been trying to take notes, right? No, but just the bump outs, the
That's the
narrow
only thing,
boardwalk.
that's the
Right,
only
the
thing I
narrow,
can.
yeah, the narrower boardwalk, it sounds like we're okay with it. We're not gonna make them go back to,
And by the way, a narrower boardwalk is 8 feet wide,
right,
not 4 feet wide.
right. And the reconfigured courtyard, it's agreeable to the board. All the other stuff, again, has been understood and explained. I think so far, unless, correct me if I'm wrong, the only thing that we're deviating from what's been presented that we'd like to have them put back and undo, if you will, are those two bump outs, right, on the board, on the walkway.
And the only thing I don't think we've seen, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, is the security fencing for the bottom of
It's
for
there.
that bottom elevation of the garage.
We can show
I
it.
think it's in the packet,
Yeah, you
Yeah.
want
but I
to
don't
bring it
think
up?
we looked at it.
Can we
You want
bring
us
it
to-
up, please? Yeah.
Yeah,
please.
we'll bring it up.
So, it's kind of tough for me to say what this is gonna look like as part of a building structure. How is it gonna be, this is on posts, I mean, it's having this as being what's being presented as the screening, because I don't think it goes on posts, I think it goes between structures, right? It's kind of a weird chain link security fence. I don't particularly like it.
Chris, can you explain how that's gonna be, because I think it's a very good question, because we're showing a fence. I mean, can you explain how that gets coordinated with the structure?
Sure. So the idea here is to use just that actual fence piece and put it within posts and frames on the actual garage itself, in between those openings that you see. So you will have some metal posts at certain intervals, similar to what you see here. The plan is not for them to be gray, they'd be black to match everything, all the rest of the fencing on the project. But we were trying to show you the visual aspect of this screening. It's not so much that it's chain link fence, we're trying to make it disappear as much as we can with the look that we have.
And there's not a nicer screening per se that you could find that would act equally as secure. I mean, this just looks very utilitarian to me.
Garage is utilitarian. It's also on 128 side. I don't see any issue with it, quite frankly.
All right, so when you hate it when it's done, I'm gonna remind you of that.
It looks like it's built
I might
to,
not be alive in 5 years.
looks like it's built to keep the T-Rex out.
Okay, I mean, I if anybody else, that's fine, whatever.
It's electrified.
No, and I'm just pulling up the elevation of the garage. I mean, it was shown in white. Can you flip back to the actual, I think it was the architectural there? I mean, there's just dozens. If I'm looking at the right area.
It's just, to me, it's not very aesthetically pleasing. And
Right, so
there's a lot of it, and it's big.
Right, every one of those white triangles is gonna be one of those fences sections, right? Yeah, So. It's just a lot. Yeah, if it was a smaller garage like some of our other projects.
I think if it's black, it's gonna disappear. I mean,
Is
the
it
only thing,
black? Is
yeah.
it black? Oh.
Well, I think in fairness, Chris, I think you should make a note in that book that it's gonna be black.
It's black, and then the background and the garage itself basically is going to be black on the inside, so
If it's black, it's gonna make a big difference on
it'll be
disappearance.
dark on the inside, so it's not going to show up that much, guys.
Yeah, no, some of the pictures show black versions. There's just the big picture showed it as, the gray, whatever.
I think the post should be black, and the fence should be black, and let it go.
Yeah.
Matt, can we just update that book to just make a note next to it, black?
Absolutely. Yep. We'll do that.
And the posts,
Yep, I'll request to see if I can find another photo that when we update it as well.
Well, one of the photos there is a black fence.
Yeah, I'll try to get one that's more straight.
Just
on, so
eliminate
you can
all
see
the
it.
others.
Understood.
All right. All right, so an updated booklet with that notation, an updated, I think it was landscape plan to show the bump outs being added in the notes taken out of the presentation. Anything else, board members?
Mr. Chair, real quick, on the landscape, and I remember way back, there was that area with the rolling hills. Is that still part of this, or was that taken out? That lawn area with the humps and all that, is that still in this project, or is that gone?
That courtyard is still there. That was one of the courtyards that got reconfigured.
Oh, it was, all right.
Or are you thinking, Joe, of the hills in front of the building between
Yeah, there wasn't that.
kind of the city? We had some rolling hills
Yeah,
between building 1 and 2 towards the lake.
I remember
Right.
yeah.
The little rolling hills picture that I think we're remembering, that was for building 3. We never had any rolling hills on the lake side.
Yeah, it was a courtyard. It was a amenity area or whatever.
Was it? Okay.
So-
That's gone. So that's gone. Yeah. All right, so.
Okay. Anything else? Okay,
The only other thing, Mr. Chair, is if the board's inclined to approve this, we had talked about also making part of the minor modification to adjust the O&M plan requirement to prior to the issuance of any certificate of occupancy.
instead of building permit.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think-
no. Was
Yeah.
that it?
Yes, yeah, and I think the board was willing to entertain that at the last meeting. That was the first thing we discussed at the last meeting before we went into the presentation on the details.
Yep. Okay. So, are you comfortable making that part of the overall modifications?
Yes.
Okay. To that, condition as well as the updated materials presented and changes. Okay. All right, anyone want to take a crack at this one?
I got it. I move that we approve the minor modifications as presented this evening as an aggregate, along with the requirement that the O&M plan becomes available and reviewed and approved prior to any occupancy, partial or full.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on the motion? Okay, regular voting members, Chip,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes,
and I vote yes. Okay. Well, thank you for the updates tonight. I think this was a little easier to digest. We had some more time to digest the overall. But do appreciate you coming back with this updated presentation. I think it went a lot smoother, at least in my mind, and it sounds like in the others. So,
Are you gonna vote on these minor modifications, Mr. Chair, the plans?
Oh, I did not. I thought I said I vote yes. It's
No, I
unanimous.
thought, was that motion only on the O&M plan or?
No,
No,
it
it
was
was on the
taken-
motive and on the minor
I
modification.
apologize. My internet keeps on like freezing. I'm missing like half. So thank you.
Nope.
I kind of, my internet went on the fritz in the middle of that. So,
Okay, nope, all approved for all of it in the aggregate, the minor mod changes and the change to the condition.
thank you.
on the
Appreciate that.
O&M. All right. So we'll look for the updated plans, just for our records and
And
we'll
I'll
get
do
this
it.
file. Yeah,
Yeah.
we gotta get a letter and
Yeah, I'll
we'll get
prepare
that
that.
taken care of. All right. All right, thank you.
Thank
Brian, Matt,
thank you,
Steve.
board members for spending so much time on this last week and this week. It's very much appreciated.
Good luck as you move forward. Looking forward to
Thank
seeing
you.
it starting.
Take care.
Thank
All
you.
right, have a good night. Okay, board members, next topic, clerk and board comments. So one that we do have is to approve, review and approve the annual report. Everyone have a chance to look at it. Gail, well done in my mind. I usually go back through and sometimes I find something, but I couldn't come up with anything that may have been overlooked. I think that covered it. I did think of a couple of things and I realized they were the previous year.
That's what's always so tough.
Well, they came back, I saw it in my minutes, like in my notes, and it was because they came back for a mod or something, and I was like, oh, what about that one? Oh, no, that was the previous year, so.
I know.
I want my name back in there twice, that's all.
I know.
Well,
You got
having said,
special treatment.
yeah, having said that, I'm wondering if we should mention Amy. She was part of the board for like 2/3 of the year. Is some mention we could make an Amy for January through August or something like that? Or whenever the dates were?
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate.
Yeah.
Amy Wall retired,
Retired, yes,
whatever date she retired.
right.
Okay.
But she was a long-
Honorably discharged.
honorably, that's right. But any other comments? members?
Yeah, I just, to let everybody know, I've had 2 meetings on 10 Broadway. I had one today. I had one.
No, Jim.
Okay.
We're still talking about the
Annual
annual
report.
report.
Oh, I thought you passed right by that.
No.
After telling Joe that he was great and everything else, go ahead.
No, and we're gonna add Amy and with whatever date, that she had stepped down. But is there any other comments on, and I'm just sharing it on screen in case you don't have it in front of you. I think it's summarized all the key ones. And then there's a lot of smaller ones that we summarize at the end. And the ones that are currently before us are obviously the big ones. 369, 10 Broadway. Yeah, those are the big ones. Yeah, it looks good, Gail, to me. Unless
Okay.
there's any comments from others, we'll get those
have
minor
the,
changes added. Mhm.
The AT&T stuff in there, right? That's right. The cell tower stuff
Yeah, it's clumped in there.
at the end or something, right? Yeah.
Right here, wireless communication
Right,
facility
yeah.
upgrades, because we did a bunch of them, so we just lumped those in with,
Yeah.
some of the accessory apartments and some of those upgrades. Apartments, pools, those signs. we
So
just-
just a real stupid little thing. When you say other board members are, should we put them in by who has been on the board the longest? And by tenure? Or how do we because Jim should really come before me. If it's by tenure. Or do we list them alphabetically, or
I think Joe ought to go first.
Joe's already up there as clerk?
I think alphabetical.
Or do we not, or do we just not care?
I don't care, but if you wanted an order, alphabetical is probably the way to roll.
Right.
How have we done it in past years, Gail?
Like this. Ain't much. I just take out whoever's gone and, or whoever.
Okay, just leave it.
So it's totally up to you guys. It can be done any way you want. Anyway,
I mean, at that point, you could just add their dates of, when they're when they're up for reelection, if you want to start adding stuff. but,
No.
right?
No. it's
I've
too-
been told less is
We actually
best.
don't want to bring it to anybody's attention how long we've been.
Right.
Nor do I want to have to run for election.
No, never, ever, ever.
I know, so Chair and Joe is clerk, other board members, Chip, Jim, just take out Joe there.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I
just
did
put
that.
And Amy, and with
Yeah.
whatever, tired or whatever on what date,
Mhm, mhm.
and then Tom, and then alternates, Mickey and Greg. I think it's fine. Just
Okay,
swap out Amy for Joe there and put a date in, and I think we're good.
okay,
All right.
okay.
All right, excellent. So with that, then Jim, you had something.
Oh, yeah, thank you. So I've had 2 meetings on 10 Broadway. One, I think, last weekend, one just today. And we're making some real good progress. So I think I've got a small meeting with them to make some further adjustments next week around Tuesday. Probably take about 15 minutes or 30 minutes, basically. But I think it's looking a lot better. So I'm recommending that at the next meeting, they come to make a presentation and get feedback from you all. But I think we made good progress, basically, on something that was just a blob on a site at this point. So hopefully you all can see it and make comments so that we can, as I've explained to them, when we get to a point where I think it's ready, I'll let them go in, get some comments, and then we'll go back out and work on what those comments are. So they're aware of what the process is. As far as Salem Street, I guess I've got a meeting next week with the architect on that. I have seen some adjustments that he's made, some of which I would have done as well. So we'll see how that works out when I meet with him and Brian, basically, to move that a little bit further, but it's not, in my mind, not ready yet. But it's getting there, hopefully. So that's about it.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
So on 10 Broadway, they do have a petition going at the gym to shut it down, but I don't think it means anything. Just
That's what?
and people are signing to stop it from getting, going anywhere, but
Well, I see that, I quite frankly see that that Foundry Street is going to be this housing community that's going to run down eventually over time. And we're not talking about tomorrow, but 10 years, 15 years, I can see Foundry Street becoming this historic, not historic, housing zone, basically, along the edge of the tracks, will come down and almost terminate at this particular project. I can see that's what's going to happen on a planning side.
Should we be getting a little close to merits of the case after we've already continued it?
What's that?
Are we getting, I feel like we might be getting a little close to the merits of what is going to be built there when we've already actually continued the hearing. Just want to make sure we're not going to get into
Yeah, let's,
details here.
yeah, let's not go too far. Agreed, Greg. But let's see what they come back with.
Is it worth putting something in the annual report saying that our approvals have put us over the 10% SHI for 40B?
Well,
Uh,
not,
I don't know that we're
I don't
there
think-
yet.
Yeah, we
Hmm.
haven't.
not till they pull the permits and, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's if everything we've approved gets counted, but again, until they pull the permits, and then the census is gonna change, and it'll
Okay.
probably go back under 10, so it's always this sort of, so I wouldn't do it until we actually are official.
To be clear, though, the new census numbers are out.
But it factored in. I asked Aaron, last time I talked to Aaron, I said, when you have an opportunity to update your numbers, we're happy to have you back. We're always happy to have you before the board,
Yeah.
but that would be the next topic,
Yeah.
right? If you get some updated numbers and want to share them, kind of like in her spreadsheet or whatever she's got, we'd love to hear them, and just so we know where we stand before something new comes along.
I mean, we've got projects out there that are just on hold. I mean, Crescent Street is, who knows where that is at this point. We got stuff in Greenwood, and we just finished with North Avenue. So and we just extended another one basically on Salem Street. So there's all this stuff that's got some count to it, but until it actually gets on the ground and gets permitted and it's up there and running.
And also 40B are different with timing of when they come on and off between when they're approved, they can go on, but if they don't pull a building certificate, they have to fall off with it, so it's not as
Done.
cut and dry as that,
Hmm.
especially with the 40B numbers.
Yeah.
Any word with Crescent Street? Is that just nothing? No permit, nothing?
No, well, I understand in talking to the architect that it's being pulled together, the construction drawings at this point. So I was not sure whether in fact it had fallen off the edge for a while.
Because they're gonna be coming back to us pretty soon now.
Why?
40B is 3 years.
3, oh.
Yeah.
Feels like it's been 3 years.
3 years to exercise the permit, yeah.
You know, that guy, well, that guy on the Greenwood project.
Yeah.
Is running into some trouble in Manchester by the Sea. So it'd be interesting to see if he comes back.
Well, we extended him once. I forget what the date is, but it's sometime this year. He's got to exercise that thing. We'll see.
Guy didn't always help himself before us, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Right. Any other, I do have one item, but I just want to pull the rest of you. Anything else? All right, so I think you got your packages for next time. That includes the vote. Again, there's been a lot swirling around this one. They're in front of the Concom, I believe. We're in the process of trying to wrap up with Concom. And we've received now an application. They're going to come to us for very specific things, and we're gonna. But in the meantime, I've had a conversation with Bill Renault because they didn't give us a full set of plans, and even though we're entitled to certainly look at different aspects of the site, and then make certain determinations, but they only gave us a couple of pages. So I have requested through Bill a set of plans from them. So I hope to get them in time to at least electronically get them routed around, and we'll get a hard copy as well. There's been some correspondence from town council, Tom Mullen, on some of the back and forth and stuff that's been going on between the team representing that project and the Concom and the town. So I'll share that information as well. So just be prepared. I expect there'll be some public there. But again, what we'll be asked to do is very specific, but I did want everyone to at least have an opportunity to see the full plans and not just a couple of pages. And then we'll see where it goes. But just an FYI of something forthcoming.
Right, Dave, I would just comment on that as well, is that read the package, because they did a pretty good job putting it together. And being on the permanent building committee for our high school, I'm pretty aware of what can and can't be talked about.
Right.
Yeah, but you don't have to recuse yourself, do you?
No. I don't think so. I don't see any conflict at all, but I'm just saying they put a pretty good package together for us, in my opinion.
No, just felt that, again, maybe a set of full plans, just so people have at least the fullness of information at their disposal to understand what's going on with the project, because it has evolved a little bit, some of the details and so forth in front of the Concom. So just so we had everything, that's all. And I think that is it for me. All right. We have minutes to approve. Next item.
I move that we approve the minutes of
February 22nd.
February 22nd. That's right.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
I move that we adjourn.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks for your time tonight.
All
Thanks,
right.
Gail.
Good night.
Good night.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.